today on Age Against the Machine, we are joined by Liz Seadon, our mindfulness and one of our fitness instructors. She'll discuss with us the benefits of mindfulness and why it can be so difficult to find stillness in our busy world, and why embracing stillness can actually challenge the idea that aging means slowing down in a negative way. So thank you for being here, Liz.
Well, thank you for having me.
How long have you been here at teaching classes at Wayne Senior Center?
That is a good question. I probably since 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think, I started teaching a yoga class. And then, of course, there was COVID. And so there was a hiatus, and then I came back, and I've been teaching sit, stretch, and move and mindfulness since then.
You started with teaching yoga. Did you find that there was a need to teach mindfulness?
Well, I think
what brought that?
They had mindfulness here. So somebody actually asked me if I would take the place of somebody else who had been here.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how that came about. But I am a mindfulness certified teacher. I just said, well, I don't really think I've got that much time. I'll just step in until you find the real person. and I know, but I really love it. I love it here. So I decided to stay. I'd never taught to the senior population before.
Okay.
And I do teach at a yoga studio, but I sort of thought kids were my specialty. I teach a mindfulness program for children.
Okay.
And so I kind of thought, well, that's my niche. And then I realized you could have more than one niche. I really enjoy this.
For people who may be new to stillness or mindfulness, can you describe each of them? Are they the same? What's their differences?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it is a little bit confusing, and there's maybe not quite an understanding of it. So mindfulness is a state of awareness. The definition of mindfulness that I use and we use in our program in the schools is mindfulness means to bring your full attention to one thing on purpose with kindness and curiosity. Okay. So it's not just being aware, but it's the attention, the quality of attention that you bring to the awareness. Okay. Stillness is kind of a state of being. You could be physically still, mentally still, emotionally still. So there's a relation between the two of them, but there is a difference. Yeah. So you can be mindful, but not still. Yoga is mindful movement. You're moving with this awareness, this quality of attention. You can do mindful eating. That's one of the activities I do in the mindfulness class. Yeah. Mindful walking. So you can really do any activity mindfully. Okay. Stillness, you could be still, but not be aware at all. And how often do you sit there and you're daydreaming, you're off? So you're maybe physically still. Okay. You could even be mentally still, but maybe, again, not aware. Right. So, but really the sweet spot is stillness with mindfulness. Okay. And a lot of the movement that we do in mindfulness is then we are more in a place that we could be physically still. Okay. Wow. So there's an overlap between the two. Absolutely. And a lot of meditation traditions actively incorporate the two. Okay. And so you do that in your classes here at Wayne Senior Center, you kind of incorporate the two. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Concentrating more on the mindfulness, but also trying to create a state of inner stillness. Okay. Yeah. Now, how do you get you teach the mindfulness classes here, but does any of the mindfulness practices come into play when you are teaching the sit, move, stretch class here? Yes, it does a lot with me because I think because I come from a yoga background, and so breathing, conscious breathing is a really critical part of how I teach. Right. And always trying to find the stillness within the movement, because ultimately sit, stretch, and move is great for the physical benefits.
Right, right.
But my interest in this whole realm came because of the mental benefits, the mental and emotional benefits. So my interest is more in kind of regulating the nervous system. And rather than just simply the physical activity of it.
Yeah. Do you find that you have a lot of our members or any participants of like the sit, move, stretch class that also go to mindfulness?
Yes.
Because of the it kind of plays off of each other a little bit, right?
Yeah. Not maybe like a quarter of them.
Yeah. Not everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's working your body physically and then also mentally as well.
It is.
Right?
And I love the fact that we have sit, stretch, and move before mindfulness because that is why the physical practice of yoga came about, to allow people to sit in meditation.
Okay.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it puts you in the condition that you can then settle.
Yeah.
It puts you in the condition that you could then be still.
Right.
So you've got to kind of work through that energy and let it settle down.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. So how does our relationship with time change as we age? When we think about finding the time to be still or practice mindfulness, is it harder as we age to find that time or easier? Both?
That's also a great question. And I would say probably depends a lot on the person too.
Right.
I think as you age, our relationship to time kind of shrinks. Time seems to go faster. And also as we age, we have more time in our past, maybe less time in our future.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us ever know how much time we have in the future.
Right.
But as you age, it becomes more certain.
Right.
That,
Absolutely. Right.
You have more of an awareness of, I think, the limitation of the time in the future.
Yeah.
I think that as people age, you start to physically slow down,
right,
which is not a bad thing. That's the natural kind of progression. But I think you also have more perspective, and maybe a little bit more patience as well. Having said that, as you age, and this could happen anytime in life, but more of a chance of it as you age, a lot of people have chronic pain, and that can make it difficult to be still or to be mindful.
Right.
But kind of ironically, the mindfulness can help with the chronic pain.
Right.
So if you get yourself in a mindset to practice mindfulness, it can then help with that.
Okay. Yeah. Bringing it to time in our modern world, right? Technology, phones, all these different things, always having constant news, busy schedules. What does that make stillness even harder?
I think it makes, I definitely think that it not only does it make stillness harder, I think it means that we have so much less opportunity to experience it. And it's just like anything. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. The less you do something, the harder it becomes. And I actually think that we probably don't even have the awareness of our lack of stillness. So we become mindless. So we just go from one thing to another without even awareness that I have not actually been physically still. I've not actually been mentally still. You're so used to that perpetual motion that it just becomes a part of who you are.
Right.
And just like that perpetual motion, the more it goes on, the harder it is to step out of it.
Yeah.
And because, just the way that it used to be, our weeks built stillness into them. Sunday, everything was closed.
Oh, true. Right. Yeah,
you couldn't go shopping.
Right.
You just couldn't do a lot of those things.
Right.
So that time was set aside to be still.
Absolutely.
Or during the week, the stores would close at 5 o'clock. You would go home and you wouldn't be getting emails or texts.
Right.
So you were able to, so you were used to, or you had the experience of settling.
Right. Right.
And so, now it's all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't even really realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That you bring up like the momentum, because for some people it starts maybe, early on when they're in their career, or when they're, they have little kids or whatever that may be. You're constantly moving. And then how do you find that time to wait, I don't have to be doing this, right? Like I can slow down.
And that's why the practice of mindfulness, you are setting aside, or you're bringing awareness to your patterns of behavior.
Yeah.
So your physical patterns of behavior, but also your patterns of thinking. And by observing yourself, you can realize, wow, I really am on this hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily guarantee stillness. That's always going to be a choice that you then have to make.
Right.
But it all starts with that awareness.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I have been, just going from one thing to the other. I mean, how many people don't even like stop to sit down to eat?
Yeah. Right.
And even if you do sit down to eat, you're still mentally, you're not even, you're scrolling through, you're watching something.
Right.
So, and I think we've even kind of thought of multitasking as like a superpower,
right?
When in fact it's actually really detrimental to our ability to be still,
right?
To be mindful.
So what can somebody do if they are, at home and they're, it's the news, or they're doing these multitasking, or they're, on their phone, and is there something that they can kind of like an alarm or something that they can kind of do to be like, wait a second, let me take these next 10 minutes to just be.
It's like it is a habit. What you practice grows, and it's not necessarily easy.
Yeah.
But, just really carving out the time to put the phone away, or not have that just background of the television on.
Right.
And really allow yourself to experience quiet, experience stillness, and let yourself move through the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the one thing, kids say they're bored.
Right.
People say they're bored. Being bored is nobody really, I don't think, ever died of boredom. It's really not that bad. But I think even as parents, like oh my gosh, my kid's bored. I've got to fill that space for them.
Right.
When in fact, creating like those opportunities to be bored, it's proven that's where so much creativity comes from. That's where so much growth comes from.
Right.
So, it takes discipline.
Yeah.
So everything is not necessarily going to be easy or feel natural to you.
Yeah.
But if you just, give it a try, like over a period of, say, a week, and it doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Do achievable things.
Right.
And maybe just say, okay, no devices like while I'm eating.
Right.
Or go for a walk. And don't listen to the podcast, except for this podcast.
Yes.
Unless it's this podcast, because this will actually help
right,
you with
there
it
you
now.
go. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, and I do all these things myself.
Yeah.
I think
We're
I'm
all
being
guilty of it.
Yeah. I mean, you think you're being efficient with your time. You have so much to do.
Yep.
But actually finding the time to find quiet, to find stillness, gives you more to bring to everything else that you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're actually probably going to be doing everything with more awareness, more attention, and more attention to detail as well. Right. So it's kind of, even if you think of it as an investment in time.
That's true. Right. Yeah.
They say that everybody should meditate for, say, 5 or 10 minutes a day. But they say if you're a busy person, you should meditate for an hour a day.
Wow.
And of course, that sounds like, that doesn't sound like it makes sense.
Right.
But it means the busier you are, the more important it is
Yeah.
to find some space.
Now, when they say that, is it an hour consecutively, or could it be,
Oh, that's a good question too. And again, I think putting like restrictions on things like that.
Yeah.
I know for me, the minute somebody says you should be doing this for that amount of time, it just
absolutely not.
Yeah. But I just feel like doing something that's achievable.
Yeah.
And start with
what works for you.
Start with 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like just settle. You get to your desk at the beginning of the day. Just sit down, take a few breaths.
Right.
Let it settle. And you start incrementally and then grow from there.
Yeah.
I would not suggest to a busy person that has never done any, meditation to then think you're going to sit down, because you're not setting yourself up for success.
There's also all these apps out there that people use to find, to guide a guided meditation or whatever it may be. Do those work as good reminders?
I think they're great.
Yeah.
I am all for anything that you connect with that will work for you.
Yeah.
Definitely try a lot of different things. In the mindfulness class, we do a lot of different types of meditations and mindfulness practices. And I often say, because they're all just different routes to this, finding this still point, this peace, this calm, they're not all going to work for everybody.
Right.
And so find something that resonates with you and do that. People that are runners, they get in a flow state. They're in a mindful state.
Yeah.
They can be in a mindful state. Having said that, you could be running and ruminating on an argument you had with somebody or somebody who cut you off.
Right.
So that's an example. 2 activities. You can be doing that mindfully, or you could be doing that in a way that's probably increasing your agitation.
You've sent us things to send out virtually for people, right? So you have the opportunity to come in here and, practice mindfulness and learn from you about it, right? But there are also the resources that, virtually, or, I need this reminder. I can, or, because you want to do it more than once.
Exactly.
Here, you can do it at home too,
Right. We sometimes will record some of our sessions.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do a body scan that you could then listen to at home. And again, what you practice grows. So the more often you can participate in that, the better.
Yeah.
And guided things are really good. You were talking about the apps.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of practice to be able to just sit and meditate on your own.
Right.
So being guided through it is just a great way. And if you find somebody who's like, it could be their voice, their tone, their way of describing things that resonates with you, then that's great.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an expectation to stay constantly busy? You talked about the momentum of it starts maybe when you're, with your kids or your career. Do you think our world has that expectation of staying constantly busy even as we age? And, we talked about that's making stillness harder, but how do we get rid of that narrative, I guess?
Well, I think it is interesting, because I think that there is a lot, now that there's a lot of research and science behind there are tangible benefits to these practices. Okay. Yeah. And I think that, it shifted from being kind of like an esoteric thing that people just believed worked or helped, to now that there are these physical benefits. I have people that come to both yoga classes and mindfulness classes because their doctors have told them to do it.
Oh, wow.
So I think that the more that the research is out there, because we do have to have buy-in for any of these things. So I think if we start to tell ourselves, actually, this is a really valuable thing to do.
Yeah.
This is not something that I do when I have the time or, the luxury of time.
Yeah.
So it's a shift more, I think, in our perception of the importance of it and the benefit of it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, there are a lot of people out there that will make a lot of time to go to the gym because it's good for them.
Yep.
And now that people start to understand that these practices are good for them, that they can say that, okay, I am going to make the time to do that.
Right. And then for some people, it's not time. It's just that feeling of uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Being still
It's
uncomfortable. How do you get past that?
It is funny because, if people will say to me, oh, I can't meditate, or they'll say, I'm not flexible enough for yoga. And that's not why you do things. You don't meditate because it's really easy for you to do it.
Right.
You practice it to increase that in your life. You don't not do yoga because you're not flexible. You do yoga to become flexible.
Right.
So, for example, you were just saying you have a couple of children, and if one of them came home and said, you know what, I'm not good at math, would you then say, you know what, then don't do math at school? Okay, that's fine. Just do the other subjects that you're good at. No,
Right.
You'd probably say, all right, well, you're going to do your math at school and then I'll help you after school.
Yep.
So those things that you're not good at,
right.
you need to carve out more time to be good at.
So how can mindfulness support people through, as we just mentioned, sleep, but then there's other bigger things like, retirement or loss or changes in health? How does mindfulness help with those things?
It helps in many ways. So as we age and you have more time behind you, it could be very easy to drift into thoughts of the past, which can be depressing.
Yeah.
Could also drift into thoughts about the future, which can be very anxiety inducing as well. But really, the only time you have any control over is the present moment. So by being aware of when your thoughts are starting to drift into the past in a negative way or into the future also in a negative way, just by being aware, you notice those patterns of thought, it helps you to come back into the present moment.
Okay. Yeah.
And by staying in that present moment, that's the only time that you have any control over anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So it helps you. Your future is made up of all these present moments. So doing your best in each present moment to create what you would like in the future.
Yeah.
It also helps with pain management because with pain management, there comes not just physical pain, and that pain comes with a lot of contraction, not just in the area of the pain, but we have a lot of secondary pain that comes, but also the anticipation of a flare-up of chronic pain or just the chronic pain itself. Is this going to get worse? How long is it going to last?
Yeah.
There's a Buddhist concept of the second arrow being our arrow of suffering that we have control over.
Yeah.
So your first arrow of suffering is the pain that you have.
Okay.
You have arthritis. That is something that you don't have a lot of control over. It's a condition that you have.
Right.
And maybe you could do things about it, but that's not
Right.
what I'm talking about. So you have the physical pain from that. The second arrow is when it's the, feeling sorry for yourself about it. How long is this going to last? This is getting worse. Other people don't have it. It's all those other thoughts that come around that initial thing.
Yeah.
So when you have a mindfulness practice, you could start to notice when you drift off into those patterns of thought. Those are the ones that you potentially do have some control over.
Yeah.
And our brains do have neuroplasticity. So basically, by being aware of these neural pathways, that's what those thoughts are. When you mindlessly continue to think them, they're getting stronger.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
When you become aware of them, it's like then you can try to change them. And again, not saying that it's easy.
Right.
I'm not good at that, so just don't do it. Try at least to, come back to the present moment, do some breathing techniques, maybe even distract yourself by doing something that you do enjoy.
Right. Right.
whatever it may be, like a puzzle or reading.
Yeah.
And so you're changing your neural pathways.
Yeah.
And so you're not changing the initial pain,
Right.
but you're changing all of those experiences around
it.
And
Yeah.
those are the areas of a great deal of our suffering.
Absolutely.
So there are some things you can control. There are others that you can't. These practices really are like real everyday practices.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like some monk up in a cave and depriving yourself of everything. You're not supposed to never think of the past or never think of the future. You know, you do. If you never think of the past, you're never going to reflect and learn anything.
Right.
You know, it's important to.
Yeah.
You know, you've lovely memories of the past. You even have difficult memories. All of those things, you know, are important. Same with the future. Like I said, our future's made up of all these present moments. You do need to plan for the future.
Right.
But it's just keeping it all in perspective and noticing when you're starting to drift into like dangerous waters, like, oh, this is starting to become depressing, or I'm living all my life in the past. As you get older, grief, you know, is a part of your life. Grief is a part of everybody's life.
Right.
As you get older, chances are you're going to have more loved ones that will have died.
Right.
And grieving is a natural, difficult, but you know, these emotions, we do want to be able to move through them.
Right.
So we want ourselves to be able to experience all the emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, but without getting gripped by them.
Right.
And by noticing, that's where you've got some ability
absolutely.
to control or to choose where you choose to put your thoughts.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. If somebody who is going through some of those things, or maybe not, right? And they just say to you, I'm just not good at meditation. What do you say to them, and how do you challenge that idea that
first of all, I would say, you know, have you really tried it?
Yeah.
And did you try it once? And how did you try it?
Right.
Is this just a perception you have of yourself?
Right.
Like, that's just part of my story. I'm just not good at that.
Yeah.
And again, try a few different things. If the idea of sitting, you know, in a mindfulness class just sounds awful to you, maybe you're somebody that does like mindful movement. Try to go on mindful walks.
Right.
And I would also say a lot of people probably have practices in their lives that are anchoring and probably are mindful, like people that love to, you know, paint or sew or woodwork, swim. You know, I think we naturally have within us this ability to kind of self-soothe.
Yeah.
So we, you know, even if it's not something that has formally, you know, you're not going swimming saying formally like, oh, I'm doing my mindfulness practice.
Right.
But maybe be aware that probably a lot of people I think have some of this in their daily lives anyway. Or how can you bring mindfulness to something that you already enjoyed doing?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to do. And another thing again, I think that, you know, we are a culture that we need proof of things. And there is science that we still have neuroplasticity into our 80s. And it's not saying it even stops at the 80s. I would imagine that's probably just where the research has gone.
Right.
Probably, you know, now they're studying people in their 90s and 100s.
Absolutely. Right.
You know, and those, you know, I haven't seen studies about that, but so we do have that neuroplasticity. We're not set in stone. So that whole, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
It's actually not true.
No, not at all.
My actual dog, I always say that though, but she's so naughty. But anyway,
Yours too.
but we're people. So, so we really do, it's being open to it.
Yeah.
And I really think that, and even at the Wayne Senior Center, these are the people that they're open to coming in and doing all these different things.
Yep.
You know, I know some of the people that have come to the mindfulness class, like I suspect it's really out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
but they're open to it.
Right, absolutely.
And I think people have really surprised themselves that they've gotten a lot out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And once they realize too that meditation or mindfulness isn't just doesn't have to just be sitting there, right? You said there are things that are part of your daily life and daily activities, like eating, right? Walking, the movement aspect of it that you can you can do. So getting past that and realizing, wait, I can do.
And maybe, and a lot of it, like I think, is people's perception of themselves, but also a perception of, what meditation is, maybe thinking it's some, you've got to be chanting in a foreign language,
right.
So it really is much more accessible. And I really do think that there is some form for everybody. Like I said, there are a lot of different paths to get to this place.
Right. Yeah. And I know for a fact, I can remember this a couple months ago. I guess at this point, there's a person, one of our members who comes almost every single day and didn't go to mindfulness at first, and then finally asked, like, what is this all about? And we were explaining it to them and decided to start going to mindfulness. So I think it's just also, what is it? Right?
Yes, yeah.
Especially if you take the sit, move, stretch class, you kind of are already
starting
your bit of it.
It is the moving component of it, I
absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but you certainly can bring that to it.
So for somebody who you're trying to get on board and trying to have they've never tried mindfulness before, or maybe they have and they just don't realize it, and they're interested in taking your class, what can they expect in your class?
The classes are about 45 minutes long. Mm-hmm. It's such a nice group of people also. It's a very welcoming group of people. And so we start off, we do a couple rounds of just deep breathing. So I teach a couple of different breathing techniques.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
So each week, we'll just do a type of grounding breath. Mm-hmm. And then I'll talk about a subject. So perhaps it is mindful eating. Maybe it is mindfulness and grief. Maybe it is, I had mentioned the second arrow.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's that.
Right.
Maybe it's the a yoga nidra, which is, maybe it's a body scan. Okay. So I'll introduce a topic around mindfulness. I'll talk a little bit about it, but then we'll experience it. So I'll guide people through a practice of this. So a body scan, you go systematically through the body, tensing and then relaxing different parts of the body. Sometimes it's a visualization, imagining yourself like as a storm is coming. Last week we did a rainbow meditation. Ooh. And that is based on the idea of the body's chakras.
Interesting.
Yeah, people in the class didn't really know what the chakras were. Yeah. And they don't really, I talked a little bit about them. And, but again, it's going through, it's really accessible. So maybe that sounds like a little bit weird. But then as we went through it, it was, okay, think of your places of physical grounding, then your places of creativity, and then your self-power, your sense of personal power, self-esteem, your ability for love and compassion, your ability to communicate, your connection with your intuition, and then your connection to everything, something greater than ourselves. And in each of those centers, there's a different color that we would visualize.
Okay, yeah.
And basically, that's the whole chakra system.
Yeah, wow.
So that was like very Reader's Digest, what we expanded on.
Right.
But so maybe at first, that's an example, maybe that sounds a little uncomfortable to you, but then it's just so practical.
Yeah, right.
And people really enjoyed that. People seem to enjoy a lot of the visualizations. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's and they're learning something too, it's something that they can, and a lot of the stuff you can take from their mindfulness class and apply it, anywhere in real life.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
Exactly. And I also think, talking about the neural pathways, just learning new things, that in itself, and keeping yourself open to things. I think sometimes when you get older, there is this kind of like, right, I've seen it, done it. The best is behind. There's nothing new and exciting in front of me. And in fact, there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
There really can be.
Absolutely. So again, for those new people who are starting mindfulness, come to the class for the first time, how long does someone need to practice to start noticing benefits of mindfulness?
That's a really good question. And I think it depends. I think you could come in to a class and maybe just feel a couple of moments of it, and then maybe that starts to expand. I think it really depends on how open you are to it.
Yeah.
And, how much maybe you explore outside of, just the weekly classes. But I think after just even a couple of times, maybe even after the first time, you'll maybe not feel a permanent shift, but
right.
just getting those little glimpses
absolutely
of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And maybe like the desire to want to do it more. Right?
Yeah.
Like to practice it
Yeah,
at
exactly.
home and in different settings.
And I think also just even the reflection on your life, like maybe just becoming a little bit more aware of like, oh, I'm starting to really breathe shallow.
Yeah.
Like I'll take a couple of deep breaths.
Yep.
People have talked about that a lot, like using their breathing if they're uncomfortable or sleeping or having a difficult conversation with a family member or something
right.
like that.
Absolutely.
So those are like the practical ways that, people can use it.
Yeah.
And it's just a time like through the topics we talk about, reflecting on different areas of their own lives. But another thing I would say to people if they're thinking of coming in for mindfulness, you can't do it wrong.
Yeah.
You can't do it wrong and you're not going to hurt yourself.
Right.
So,
right. True.
So, you really
absolutely
have nothing to lose and probably a lot to gain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and just like exercise too, right? You have modifications, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So it's the same thing. You modificate. You mentioned 3 different types of breathing techniques.
Yeah.
And just like one class, it's the same thing.
There's just like, I really think there's always something for everybody. Yeah. You might not get it all in one class. Right, it may take a few times, absolutely. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so as you know, this podcast is all about, challenging the narrative of getting older. And we're talking about, basically those assumptions and how are we challenging those assumptions, right? So how are you disrupting the narrative of getting older? What are you doing?
I think, I'm constantly learning new things.
Yeah.
I definitely am. I really, and I think that's why I loved I love teaching here. That's why I wanted to continue teaching here, is because it really is so inspiring just seeing people so active and making new relationships with people here, like the students amongst themselves. And, it makes me think like that's what I want to be doing.
Right.
When I'm at those ages. So just that idea that that's still possible.
Absolutely.
And also like it is a privilege to age, I mean, not everybody gets to make it this far. So appreciating it and not focusing on like change is inevitable. Yeah. Change is good. And so, I don't think aging, I don't think like I want to stay. I'm not trying to stay at some version of myself in the past.
Yep.
I'm really trying to find like physical, mental, emotional challenges where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being open to that. Yeah. And I think, that awareness really allows that. So absolutely. Not thinking I should be doing this, I can't be doing that, but just being kind and curious, which is the very definition of mindfulness.
Absolutely.
So.
Your mindfulness class every Tuesday at 12:30.
Yes.
And it's about 45 minutes. Anything else about the class that you think is important information for our listeners?
I think it's a little people also have an opportunity to share their thoughts or ask questions as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like, a classroom where I'm sitting there lecturing people.
Right.
It's more of a community than, a student teacher kind of relationship. And I think everybody in that participates adds to the group as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then if people have things that they've read about, people will share books or podcasts or articles. And so I've learned things, it's interesting to me too.
Yeah.
So
well,
they say never stop learning because life
Yeah.
never stops teaching.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being here with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.